Welcome back to From the Shed End Part 2. If you was here as part of the first live stream, you'll know that there was some technical difficulties. Hopefully this one goes a lot better than the first one. If you're new to this channel, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. You leave your thoughts in the comment section as well. Don't forget, Linktree link is also in the description for our social accounts, our podcast as well. So make sure you hit the notification on that afterwards as well. Now, there's a lot to pick out in the next 45 minutes in this live stream. So if you're here, make sure that you smash the like, all of that stuff. Get involved in the chat as well. But we have to talk Cardiff, Carabao Cup. Who can we potentially face? All of that stuff. We're going to do all of that in this live stream. We're also going to talk about some breaking news that's come out this afternoon about Roman Abramovich. Sporting directors need a mention. We also need to talk about Estevao Willian. What do we do with him this part of the season, which is crucial? He's out of the game on Saturday against Newcastle, which is going to be a massive blow. Massive blow for us. But let's talk about the game first of all from yesterday. 3-1 Chelsea. Did not feel, let's be honest, it did not feel like a 3-1 game. It did not feel like a 3-1 game. It almost felt a little bit like that first half was bad. Let's be honest. That first half was a bad performance. And Maresca made 11 changes to the team that faced Everton on the weekend just gone. 11 changes. Those 11 changes for me were, I don't want to call them justifiable. But what I do think with Maresca, and whether this is right or wrong, I feel like this is a signal, a warning to the sporting directors that we don't have the quality in depth in this squad. We really don't. We really don't. Because this was an opportunity for some of these players that aren't playing, regular football, that aren't getting the amount of games that they potentially want to be getting for Maresca and Chelsea. This was their opportunity to really hammer home why they should be starting games. And I'm not saying that none of these players will, if I had to single out two players yesterday for me personally that didn't do enough, that didn't do what they should have done, it was probably Tyrique George and Jamie Gittens, the two wide players. Look, we'll talk about Achiampong shortly, but I think with Jurgensen in goal, Josh Achiampong right back, we went with Tosin and Badia Shil as the centre-backs, with Joao Neto as the left-back, Santos and Caicedo in the midfield, with Tyrique George on the right-hand side of the attacking midfielders. We had Facundo Buonanotte in the middle as the 10, with Jamie Gittens on the left of the attack, with also Mark Gui finally getting an opportunity in front of goal as the number 9. Now, with that lineup against a League One opposition, Cardiff, although they're high-flying, top of the league, they did actually put their top goal scorer on the bench for this season. But they did put Callum Robinson, who has scored 5 goals against Chelsea over the years, some for West Brom if you recall, but they had him up front. He didn't have the best of games, but it felt like one of those games that was going to get away from us if we weren't careful. I actually wrote down some things. I was watching the game and I was thinking, these lot don't really want to win this game. And if they do want to win the game, they're showing it in a different way than I would have, because there was nothing from them. There was nothing from this team that made me think, you know what? Actually, this team wants to win this game. I wrote down from the 15, because I was watching the game, in the first 15 minutes, there wasn't much happening. And then the first real attack from us came in the 15th minute. It came in the 15th minute. It came down the right-hand side. It was Tyrique George. He could have ran into space. He could have ran into the space. He could have made something happen. And he doesn't. He doesn't make anything happen. And I was watching this game and I was thinking, now, Tyrique George, you've got two options. You either take on the left back for Cardiff, or you're going to pass the ball back and it's going to end up back at Jurgensen. And that's exactly what happened. It went straight back to Jurgensen. There was too much of that yesterday. Too much of, the negative passing backwards again. Something we haven't really seen when, the likes of Reece James is in the team and Malo Gusto, and, you've got all these players that are regular players in our team. You don't necessarily see that all the time. But yesterday we got to see Tyrique George really struggle down that right-hand side. He hasn't played well when he's been playing on the left-hand side. He can't play as a number 9. His representatives have come out after the game, and even before the game, there was talk about, his representatives weren't happy that he's not getting as many minutes as he feels he should for Chelsea. But when you put out performances like that, you can see why Maresca is very reluctant to start him or to even feature him in the game, because he doesn't affect the game at all. He doesn't affect the game at all. Didn't do much. Accurate passes, 18 out of 21. One shot, which was blocked. No crosses into the box. He had 26 touches of the ball. It just, he doesn't scream out. Look, before he was in the Conference League, I was screaming for him to start more games. I thought this is a player that I can see the quality. I can see what he's doing. And I don't know if some of these players, because they're a lot younger, Tyrique George is only 19 years old, do they thrive off confidence? Do they thrive off playing more games, minute after minute, back-to-back games? Is that what it is? Because it feels like at the moment that they're, the likes of Tyrique George should be doing a lot better than he has done, a lot better than he needs to. This felt like a game for me that, had we not had Josh Achiempong in the back line, had we not had Felipe Jurgensen in goal, it could have gone a completely different way in that first half. It really could have. It just didn't scream like a team that wanted to go out there and prove a point to not just the manager, but to the club, to the owners, to the sporting directors. It just didn't scream that kind of game for me. It really didn't. That first half was a real struggle. The first thing I'll say about Jurgensen is the distribution is still not there. The distribution is still not there from him. He clearly can't play out from the back. There was a moment in the 18th minute where I think he tries to play the ball through straight down the middle of the pitch to Mark Gui on the middle of the pitch, and it just wasn't the pass. That's not the pass you need to make. And if you're not confident making it as well, it's never going to come off. We lose possession of the ball. Cardiff nearly go on to score. And there was many other occasions with Badia Shil, doing exactly the same, not making the right decisions, not making the right pass. And those situations, you can get away with them against Cardiff. No disrespect to them at all, but you can get away with doing that. If you do that against Saka, Foden, Ekitike, you don't get away with them. You just don't. They punish you for those silly mistakes you make at the back. And this is what my worry was. I would never have made 11 changes if I was Maresca. I think 11 changes is a lot. Yes, you want to make sure that you rest some of your key players like Enzo Fernandez, Reece James. They need the rest. Of course, I get it. And obviously, Cucurella was suspended, so he was never going to feature. But you've got to make the right choices. Badia Shil is probably one of the worst. I don't know how. When he first came to the club, there was a lot of enthusiasm. There was a lot of expectation, excitement. Can he come into this team and can he make this role his own? Can he make himself one of the more confirmed names on the team sheet every week? A solid centre-back. And there were glimpses of that. There was so many glimpses, and you thought to yourself, right, we've got ourselves a good defender here. Very agile, very good in the air, brilliant. But as time's gone on, and again, is it a confidence thing? Is it a confidence thing? Does he need to be playing more minutes? Something's gone on because he doesn't look comfortable on the ball, doesn't look comfortable off the ball, makes lapses in concentration. And when you've got someone look, he needs to stop calling himself Badia Shil. Just call yourself bad. Just call yourself bad now. You're not Badia Shil. You're not, take off the Chilier and just Badia Shil. Not anymore. You're just bad. You're just a bad centre-back. And you've got to come out the team. Because last night was an opportunity for Badia Shil, Tosin to redeem himself. And again, I'm not saying that they had bad games, but if you come up against an opposition that is better than Cardiff and will make you and will punish you, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. So wasn't impressed with those two at the centre-backs. I thought Achiempong. Now, if I have to sing someone's praise, Achiempong, for me, in the pecking order of centre-backs or right-backs, more so centre-backs, is ahead of Tosin, is ahead of Badia Shil. In terms of a right centre-back, we need to find a way to get Achiempong into that team. And if you do need to rest a Chalobah or a Wesley Fofana, It's his name that should be first before Tosin, before Badiashile, before Dizazi, any of those centre-backs. Achiampong last night confirmed he is cool, calm and collective on the ball. I don't worry about him. I do not worry about Achiampong. And the thing with Achiampong, he can drive the ball forward. He's not scared to committing to go forward, and he knows the likes of Caicedo will cover him. There was a couple of opportunities yesterday. He got forward with the ball, loses possession of the ball, but he knows he's got the cover of Caicedo to cover up and to fill in as a right back. He can do that. And Caicedo done that really good yesterday. Really, really well. Achiampong, for me, if I look at those group of youngsters that we talk about with, Maheka and Tyrique George, Reggie Walsh, Achiampong feels like the more solid one that is ready to come through and be part of this team and be part of something, because he just looks comfortable. He very rarely puts a foot wrong, and if he does, he's the first to try and redeem himself. He's the first to try and recover the ball back. He tries to get forward and, take opportunities on, and you need that. You need that. And the way that Maresca wants us to play, I think that's going to be the one player that I think we will see generally come through in the Chelsea setup in the next couple of seasons or so. I'd hate for him not to be involved in our lineup. But that first half was a slug. It was horrible to watch. It was, but again, we come up against a very sort of changed lineup from Cardiff. As I said, they had their main striker on the bench in Shalesh. Alex Robertson came on, Chris Willock came on, didn't really impact the game, but that first half was difficult to watch. I'll be honest, I was writing down the notes. I'll tell you the notes I wrote down. I wrote down 18 minutes, Buonanotte on the attack. Now, one thing I will say about Buonanotte is he can actually run very well with the ball. I don't think that's even a conversation to be had. He can run forward with the ball. He can take on a player. My worry is that he either overthinks, or I can't decide, is he overthinking or lapses in concentration? But either way, he doesn't retain the ball. Once he's in a critical area of the pitch, it's almost like he gets brain fog and forgets what he wants to do. What does he need to do to get this ball into the box, create a chance, or even take the shot on? And he never does any of those things. He always stumbles at the moment that you need him to be. He's the most attentive to what he's trying to do. And yesterday we got to see that. As I said, there was one moment in that game where it was actually a foul. He takes on two Cardiff players, bobs and weaves in between them, gets into a really good space just on the edge of the box. He is fouled. But rather than, use the space in front of you, do something. Yeah, yes, you're fouled, but there were other opportunities where, you can get up and recover the ball, make something happen. Even in the other opportunities that he had, he just doesn't do enough. He just doesn't do enough. And for me, I struggle to understand. I say this a lot on this channel. What have we brought him in to do? What have we brought in to do? Why have we brought in Buonanotte to come into this team? And what is the plan for him? What is the plan? What do we think will happen with Buonanotte? It's not even an obligation or a mandatory to buy him. So are we just trying to train him up, give him some experience to send him back to Brighton to benefit them? If that's the case, send him back in January. If we can send him back in January, send him back, because I don't see what is the aim here. What is the aim? I can guarantee he's not going to start in the semi-final. He's going to start maybe a handful of games for us. He might start against Paphos in the Champions League. He might get 1 or 2 games in the Premier League or come in as a sub. But if that's his role, there's players that we've already got on the bench. Some are going to be coming back from injuries. And we've got youth players that can come and do exactly that same job. There's players in our team that we can bring into our team from our youth setup that can do probably just as good as a job as Facundo Buonanotte. Not saying he's a bad player, but clearly, and I keep using this word on here today, confidence. It looks like he's struggling. I generally think it would have been better to maybe utilize someone else in that role. Maybe you start with Malo Gusto and Santos plays in the 10. Maybe you do that, because Buonanotte, I think yesterday was a really good opportunity for him to just show Maresca what he can do. What he can do, and he didn't do that in the first half at all. Really struggled, in my opinion. Achiampong again, 22 minutes into the game, caught out of possession, but like I said, I expect that because he gets forward with the ball. And if he gets caught, the ball got caught under his feet, over the top ball, Caicedo has to recover there. But Caicedo, again, I thought for me personally was you can see the difference with him out the team and Caicedo in the team. And I think the two things are night and day, absolute night and day. Caicedo coming in, he just looks good. The only thing I'll say about Caicedo is that he's got to stop this petulant sort of, clapping the ref. I mean, the ref's going to book you for it. So by doing that, you can't pick these. We can't afford to pick up these silly, stupid yellow cards in the Premier League. You can get away with it here and there, but when you start totaling up another, suspension, 5 yellow cards, if you do that in the Premier League, that's going to cost us games. That could cost us a game where we need you in that game. So, and I think yesterday, especially as being captain, I expected a little bit more from Caicedo from that leadership side of things. You just got to get on with the game. Get on with the game and just. Let's not let's stamp that side of the thing out. You're meant to be leading by example, and I don't think Caicedo did that part of his job the best that he could have yesterday. I think ideally, good to see him back, good to see that he got the minutes that he got, but we need to stamp out that stupidity because it's going to cost us in games. It's going to cost us absolutely in games. Now, the subs that Maresca did make at halftime, which I called for. I was screaming for. I was screaming at the TV. I was like, we need to make changes. The two changes, Garnacho and João Pedro came on at half time. Now, that was for Mark Gui and Tyrique George. And I'll be honest, I think they were the best subs to make at that time. I did think Pedro Neto would have come on, but I think Maresca in the back of his mind has obviously got Newcastle, early kickoff, 12:30 to think about as well. I would have started Garnacho. I said in the preview, Garnacho he needed to get that sort of Everton performance out of his system. And I think the best way he would have been able to do that is by starting him against a team where he's going to get space to run into. He can take on the defender, he can get into the box, create something, make something happen. And as soon as he came on, it was different. We was able to see opportunities coming down that left side. He's getting more space. He was making I think his name's NG. I think he's either Malaysian or from Thailand, but he was making him work, making him think the right back for Cardiff, that he can't go forward as much anymore. You've got Garnacho to think about. And the 3 sitters that he missed against Everton, I would have been questioning him if he didn't score those goals yesterday, because they were hard goals to score, but easy goals to score at the same time. The ball's in for them, the brilliance of the goals that he scored were brilliant. So I think, and then obviously Neto comes on. Neto gets his goal. But we've got to do more. We've got to show more, in my opinion. We've got to show more. We've got to show that when we play whoever we play in the semi-final, that we can do better. We can do better, because it wasn't good enough in that first half. And even when even when Cardiff scored, I wasn't still comfortable with the scoreline being 2-1. One thing I want to credit Maresca for in this game is he brought on Trevor Chalobah in the 84th minute, was it? Let's have a look. I feel like it was the 84th minute or something there, but 84th minute. He brings on Chalobah for Achiampong, which I thought was a sensible substitution. One, because it allows you to, and obviously Malo Gusto came on before that as well with Pedro Neto, but it allows you to keep Reece James on the bench for Fofana, Enzo. That those 3 you think will start on Saturday's game against Newcastle, but it allowed Trevor Chalobah to come in and just see the game out, even at 3-1. See the game out, Achiampong's played really well, but you know that Trev's is going to do the job. Even at right back as opposed to centre back, he's going to get that job done. He got to see the game out, and I thought that was a really sensible sub by Maresca. But things have to improve. Things have to improve because the next couple of games that we have, or the next possible opponents that we can face, obviously Man City play Brentford tonight. Newcastle Fulham is also tonight. Arsenal and Crystal Palace is next Tuesday, the 23rd. Now, the draw for the semi-finals is actually taking place tonight after the Newcastle Fulham game. So the draw is going to take place tonight. It'll be Jamie Redknapp and Shay Given. So hopefully they give us a good draw. Now, I personally think, looking at these fixtures, Man City, Brentford, look, Man City potentially will take their eye off the ball a little bit. Maybe. But it's Man City, it's Etihad. I think they'll get the job done there. I think Fulham can beat Newcastle. I think Newcastle, left the back of that defeat to Sunderland, may have wiped him out a little bit. Dan Burns out for 6 to 8 weeks now with a fractured rib. So, and he's key for them at the back. So I think, there's another opportunity for Fulham to capitalise on, and they need something, Fulham, to turn their season around a little bit. Arsenal Crystal Palace is a tricky one because I think Arsenal, again, they're going to want to have one eye on the Premier League. Is this where Mikel Arteta rotates a little bit, saves some of those legs for the Premier League? So, and that Crystal Palace are a good side. Oliver Glaston's got them playing some good football. But if I had to take on one of those in the semi-final, I'd love to avoid City. If we can get through the semi-final, get to the final, and if it is Man City, then I always say finals is anyone's. Whoever wants it on the day wants it more. And that's just how finals go. Not always the best team will win the final. Let's avoid City. Let's avoid City for the semi-final. I would rather play Crystal Palace or Fulham. And I think those two may get through the games from Newcastle and Arsenal. I think they'll go out. But I think if we can get one of, even Arsenal, if we get Arsenal or Newcastle, I'm not too bothered because I think Newcastle on the day, they're beatable. And I also think Arsenal on their day, I know they've got one of the best clean sheet records and one of the best defensive records, but I think they will have to at some point make a choice about these games, because the games will be, the semi-finals will be taking place on the 12th of January and the 2nd of Feb. So the two-legged tie, at that point, the league is going to be pretty much shaping up for what it will be for the late run-in, March, April, May, into the latter start parts of the season. It's going to start forming. So at that point, especially the second leg, Arsenal are going to know, do they need to keep points to keep a gap going, or do they need to chase wins to get back into first place in the Premier League? So I think they will think one of the other. We're in a totally different situation. I feel like obviously the title chase is now probably dead and buried. I think the owners were always going to be expecting a top 4 finish again this season with a trophy. And I would like to say that we can do better than the League Cup, because I think we can. But I think if we can get the League Cup, I think that builds momentum, builds confidence into these players. You got to see what happened after the Conference League. We went on to win the Club World Cup. I think winning a League Cup would do well for going on to the FA Cup, doing a cup double. I wouldn't shy away from that. And then you want to try and see how far you can get high up into the league for the Premier League spots, for the Champions League. Maybe go on one final push in the Premier League for that. But I'm not concerned by the teams that are in there. I think if you can avoid, obviously City's the big one. That's the team I'd want to avoid in the semi-finals anyway. I want to play them in the final. If we play them, I want to play them in the final. But one key player that was missing last night, and I mean, we know now why, but at the time I was thinking, how can this kid, I don't want to call him a kid, he's 18, how can he not be in the team? And I'm talking about Estevao Willian. For me, I was absolutely shocked to not even see him on the bench. Now, Maresca's come out afterwards, or maybe before the game, and said that he's picked up a muscular injury, which means he will be out of the game on Saturday. It's too early to have him back for that. But Estevao, this goes back to my point. How can you have a player that you're trying to wrap in cotton wool, that you're trying to make sure doesn't get injured, hasn't really played that many minutes hasn't really played that much minutes of, Atalanta didn't really play that much minutes. Don't think he played many or any minutes against Leeds. Came on against Everton for about 10 minutes. So he hasn't played much football, and he's still picked up an injury that's kept him out of 2 games. So it goes back to something I said a couple of weeks ago. Let's just play the players, and if they pick up an injury, then it's unfortunate. But you'd like to think an 18-year-old footballer can play 2 or 3 games a week. Wayne Rooney was doing it. Robbie Fowler was doing it. Like, it's not unheard of for these players to be doing it. Michael Owen was doing it. Lamine Yamal's been doing it for Barcelona since he was, 17, 18. So it can be done. It can be done. I don't want to hear this sort of nonsense that, players can't play as well, can't play. Players, Estevao Willian is not used to playing 2 games a week. Now, it's unfortunate that he's injured at the moment. Of course, we all want to see him back in the team, and hopefully he is back for the Villa game in a couple of weeks. But games like against Leeds, Atalanta, I think if you have him in the team, I'm not saying you win it, but you definitely give yourself the advantage of trying to get something out of those games. And of course, yes, we didn't need him against Everton, but again, that was not a convincing 2-0 win. Had Everton got a goal scorer, number 9, prolific, clinical in front of goal, it could have been a totally different game on Saturday. So I do think we need to see when he does come back. Because my worry is if most South American players, when they come to Europe and they're playing for a team, if Real Madrid come knocking, if Barcelona come knocking, it's very, very rare for them to turn them down. Not many South American players will turn down Real Madrid or Barcelona. And that's not just for Estevao Willian, that's for Enzo Fernandez, that could be for some of the other players that aren't even from South America, but the main guys, Cucurella, another one. I don't think he turns down a Real Madrid or a Barcelona. So I think there are certain players that I think we need to make sure that are in our team. And Maresca has to make sure that he finds a way to play all the players in the team that we need in the team. So I want to see Estevao, I want to see Cole Palmer maybe as the 10, and then I want to see maybe Pedro Neto on the left with Mark Gui or João Pedro as the number 9. I want to see Enzo and Caicedo. I want to see Reece James, Cucurella on the fullback positions. I want to see Tosun out of the team. I want to see Chalobah and Fofana, or even Achiampong, as I said, in the team. Sanchez, who's been playing brilliant this season. But Maresca, when he's fit again, Estevao has to be back in that team for me, because I'm not saying again he's a game changer, he's a difference maker in a game, but he definitely gives you something creatively. Last night, I think that game would have been wrapped up a lot earlier than it was had he been available to play. I generally do. I think he's I generally think he's a generational player. I really do. I think if we lose Estevao Willian, like we did with Mo Salah, under different situations and circumstances, and Kevin De Bruyne, I think we'll look back on this and think we had talent. We had such a talent on our hands, and we just allowed him to go. Now, quickly in the chat, we've got Carlos saying it can be done, but it's not easy, as fans are saying. It's easy to have an opinion. Facts are, it's none of us as professional coaches that have been on the training ground with these players. I get that 100%, but I mean, you've been watching, surely, hopefully, Carlos, you're a Chelsea fan. You'll have been watching the games, and you know that there's games, going back to Leeds, for instance, we ended that game actually with 2, and the Atalanta game, we ended up with 2 fullbacks in the midfield. Some of it is down to Maresca's coaching. So although he's the professional, he's the one with the badges and all the rest of it, it doesn't mean that he can't make mistakes. And I think he's even come out and said he's made mistakes when he should have played. He shouldn't have played Tosun. He should have played Achiampong in the back line. So Maresca knows he's still learning on the job. I think for me, my worry is that you've got a talent like Estevao. I'll ask another question. If Estevao was at City, or I'll even say Liverpool, does he sit on the bench as he's been sat on our bench? Because I don't think he does. I don't think Pep's going to drop him. Knowing what we know about Estevao and how good he is, alongside someone like Cole Palmer, if Pep was the manager at Chelsea, or you had, I don't want to use Arne Slot because I think he would actually bench him, but if it was Jurgen Klopp or a top manager, I think they're finding a way to play this guy because he's that good. He's absolutely sensational to watch. Carlo Ancelotti, the Brazilian head coach, can't speak highly of him any more than he does already. He's already said he's going to be one of the best players in the world. And he's at our club and he sits on the bench and he gets injured when he doesn't play. And it defeats the object of trying to wrap him in cotton wool, I think is what I'm trying to say. There's no point doing that because he's already out now for 2 games and he's hardly kicked a ball. He's hardly played 90 minutes. So what's the point? For me, he's got to play. Faisal is saying in the chat as well, the rotation is killing us. That's why Enzo Maresca is not happy with these owners. These players aren't good enough. I prefer quality over quantity. I agree. And I generally think that was why yesterday we got to see those 11 changes. Because I think it was a message from Enzo Maresca to these sporting directors to say, actually, these are the players that you've brought. I think we've got 4 or 5 sporting directors now. Because Sam Jewell is now as one of the directors. I think Maresca was trying to send a message. Off the back of his comments from post-Everton match, we know that he's about the fans. Because the fans are pictures and the fans in his name, and then both say that he appreciates the fans deserves, as we said last week. So no hatred towards fans or distant towards fans. But definitely he's our sporting director. Because Maresca obviously asked for certain players. He's passing the backs. He's asked for a proper striker. And the sporting directors are probably going to leave the lap. They probably brought in Gerard, they probably asked him. Maybe he asked for Gittens, maybe he wanted 1 or 2. Maybe he didn't want, maybe 1 or 2. Maybe he wanted George to leave him because he was going to remember on Dead. So he's for, actually, I don't want him to he's not my sort, just a bit more of a player. And so maybe he's messing sporting directors like, here's 11 players I've tried to tell you are my players. And you can see from that how bad he struggled to work anything into Cardiff, make something happen, make it work. So I agree with that 100%. I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. It's a message to the owners. Yeah, see, but to speak with Estevao, but I think we have to a little bit. I think with Estevao, I think it's a thing of, look, for me, like I said, if Estevao's fit and available, the front 3 in that attack will be Estevao on the right, Carabao on the 10, Pedro Neto on the left. It's as simple as that. That's what I think. Yeah, someone's saying like in the chat. Hopefully it picks back up. Hopefully it picks back up in a minute. Honestly, these live streams, guys, you'll know if you've been joining the live streams for a while, you'll know they've been absolutely chaotic. So yeah, we're trying to work our way through the live streams. We'll get back to the regular setup soon, hopefully. But yeah, I think in terms of Estevao, things have to move on for him. Now, the news I want to talk about very quickly. Time is run. Let's bring just over. Now, this is to do with Roman Abramovich. This is to do with Roman. The UK government has given Roman Abramovich the final chance to comply with the transfer of 2.5 billion, his Chelsea sale, which have been frozen for over 3 years. This has come from the Chancellor Rachel Reeves, who's today issued a license to allow the transfer of funds to go to a new foundation intended to distribute the money to humanitarian causes in Ukraine. And then it says here, Keir Starmer has told Abramovich to commit the funds or face court action, allowing the government to finally release the money. So it says here that Starmer's told MPs, my message to Abramovich is this: the clock that he's been put in a situation like that. I don't know for the life of me why he's been put in that situation, why he's having to do this. I think it's nuts. And to be honest as well, like why is it down to Abramovich? Why is it down to Abramovich to deal with this? Why is it down to Roman to deal with this? The government have taken his money. He doesn't have the money anymore. It's with the UK government. The UK government can do anything they want with that money because they've already seized it. So theoretically, it's no longer his money. That's the crux of it. It's no longer his money. He doesn't, that money does no longer own, it's not owned by Roman Abramovich. The government hold that money. They actually can and should have and could do 3 years ago, have sent that money where they need to send it. Abramovich doesn't have the say so anymore. That's what a seizure of assets does. It takes control of the funds away from the person and gives it to the person. So I don't understand where or why Abramovich feels like he's got control of it. He doesn't. I think the seizure of assets will tell you that because that's why the sale of Chelsea Football Club happened. But it's nuts. It is nuts. It's crazy. It's bonkers. Let me know if I'm still lagging in the chat. If I am, we're going to have to wrap this live stream up. In fact, we will wrap this live stream up because I think I'm still lagging. So appreciate everyone that's been in the chat. Don't forget, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts about Cardiff. Who do you want to see us play in the next round? The draw is tonight after the Newcastle game, so make sure you're around for that. We'll do another video tomorrow about who we're facing. Try and get this live stream working again. Get us back to regular schedule. Until then, enjoy the rest of your